Okay. Reign of Terror.
Oh,
Episode 8.
oh,
Finale of Season 1.
it was so scary.
Bit of a giveaway as to what this one's all about. If you're in the know, if you know the names of things, you're in the know. You know what this one's about.
It was a cloud that rained really hard on everybody, and it was terrifying.
No, dear, that. Oh shit! I think I showed you the wrong episode. Oh fuck.
Fuck.
Oh shit.
Do we have to re-record the entire commentary now? That's why you're making.
Yeah.
That's why you were making jokes about farts and stuff, and I didn't understand.
Explain what happens in the Reign of Terror, dear.
That was like 3 hours of work. So Eat the Rich. It didn't do the whole intro song, and I was kind of sad. But we see like two people in capes walking around this like forested area. It's called a land of fear. Okay. And the TARDIS.
The land of confusion.
Oh, a TARDIS, of course, appears, and as it does, and everyone's just kind of standing around. And at this point, I'm still missing Ian's code. I think we both are. And the doctor says Ian made them take them home because of one fucking line in the argument in the previous episode that I was like, haha, Ian's making a joke about going home, and the doctor was like, fuck you, like, I do everything for you. I was like, what the fuck? And I didn't think that would go any farther than it did, but it did. It went so much farther, and he gets into this argument with everybody, and he even like tells Susan to say goodbye, and she hugs them and runs away, and the doctor is so pissy. And he's absolutely certain that he brought them specifically to home, that he turns on the monitor and shows them some trees. And more
trees mean Earth.
And more trees. And more trees. And he's like,
trees
yeah, you're obviously on Earth, and you're obviously in England in your exact time period. Nothing else is going to change. And he's basically like, yeah, the thing that you think that looks like, Barbara, because she kind of daydreams. She's like, oh, this is sort of like when I went on vacation in Britain. She's like, yeah, so that thing that
she says Somerset.
Somerset?
Not Britain.
Where's Somerset?
Somerset.
Where's Somerset?
Not Britain.
I know there's...
No, not London, I mean.
I know there's a Somerset, Texas.
Yeah, that's where she went, Texas.
Okay, cool. And the doctor's like, you know what? That thing that you're dreaming of, that's exactly where we are. Like, it is. And yeehaw, get out of my TARDIS. And Ian talks about how the doctor has, like, fucked up before, so hey, maybe they should double check. And they get into this freaking stupid argument, and they're going back and forth, and they are like, actually, you know what? You're right. And you're always in control. And you are so good at everything you do, Doctor. Maybe we should go out for a drink. And he's like, you know what? That'd be nice. Before you leave, let's go out for a drink. And it's like, uh-huh. All right. So they all leave. And Barbara and Ian are like, haha, you did so good. You duped an old man who's not fully there. And
what? Wow. You're saying he's not fully there?
In the show, no, I don't think he is, as the character, no.
Wow.
So Barbara is like, wow, you duped him, whatever. And then they walk out and they're like, huh, it's summertime. It's kind of hot. And then they're kind of weirded out that there's no lights or gunshots, or there's lights, and then there's also the sound of...
There's lights and there's no gunshot. I don't remember it being so calm here. Where's all the warfare?
God damn it. They're weirded out that there's no lights, and they hear gunshots or something, and the doctor thinks it's a rabbit. And so Ian goes, and I said that he fought the rabbit, and then he brings him out, and it's a kid who's really dirty and terrified, and the kid thinks that everyone's going to hurt them. But they find out that they're in France, and the doctor just kind of stares into the middle distance and walks away because he fucked up.
No, he didn't. Excuse
he
you.
let me finish. He also makes the argument that it's okay that they're in France. They can get back to Britain a couple 100 miles away is understandable comparatively to, the amount of distance that they've all traveled at this point. It's nothing.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a point.
So the kid then shoves Ian and runs off, and we see the kid run up and knock on this door to a farmhouse and be let in. And then the crew just walks up to the same farmhouse and they're like, that's interesting. Let's break in. And then they break in.
Let's break. What's in there, dear?
A chest full of clothes, 2 candelabras. It was a single candelabra and a lantern that the doctor takes and goes upstairs with while Ian and Barbara and Susan dig through a box that they find. They find clothes. They realize that it's the 18th century because of the time period for the clothes. They find bundles of stale bread, a map, and I was like, wow, let's get revolutionary, boys. This is eat the rich.
And they find reason to kill the aristocracy.
They find Marie Antoinette's head.
It'd be a bit rotten by then.
Yes. They also find a document signed by Robespierre. Robespierre. Sorry. I'm probably going to screw that up quite a few times. So
there are a lot of French names in this.
Oh, I gave up and started calling one of them Fancy Pants. So
of course you did.
The doctor gets knocked the fuck out. And apparently all the clothes that they find fit them perfectly. So they've all put them on. And some dudes walk into the room and hold them all at gunpoint. And they're like, well, why did you stop at this empty house? That's weird. And did you come alone? And they're like, yeah, we did. And they're like, you're a liar. The doctor was upstairs. Like, what the fuck? We can't trust you. Barbara then mentions that they aren't even French, so they have no side in the revolution. And then Ian hears some people outside, and wowee, it's soldiers that followed them, apparently. Somehow.
Oh. That's not good.
The soldiers decide to come inside the house, look around, after they specifically have a rest, so that the people inside can freak out and wait a little bit longer to be captured. And they also decide to send the one man with the eye patch who maybe doesn't have the best vision to go watch the back. So if they escape from the left, he's fucked. But if they escape from the right, like...
No, yeah, well, I mean, then they'd be fine.
Exactly. So... God damn it. I hate that they just waited. Everyone's standing around all nervous. Ian goes upstairs to find the doctor. One of the 2 guys that pulled a gun on them runs outside because he's nervous. And
wouldn't you be?
Yes, but I wouldn't exactly... I don't know. I wouldn't exactly run outside to some guns. And then...
What if you just wanted to get it over and done with?
Fair. And then the other guy comes in and he's like, hey, stand down. And then we cut to the doctor and he's dead, by the way. They cut to him like 2 or 3 times and he's just dead.
You're talking about the actor, not the character, right?
Sure. Why not both? Honestly.
Wow.
I mean, both.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So they both get fucking shot because they pretty much go, you can put soldiers' garments on them, but they're still peasants. And then they get shot. And it's like, okay, fair.
It's funny that he gets shot after the word peasants.
Yeah. So we then hear Susan scream, and Eye Patch Man is behind a door. And Ian tries to talk to them, and they just say, shut up and leave, basically. And they're put in front of a firing line. And then one guy's like, hey, if we take them to Paris, we might get paid. Because we already killed the other 2 that we were looking for. Here's some extras. So
Yeah, they're really just extras.
Mm-hmm. They decide to leave, and then they also decide to burn the house down, and the doctor's still like dead in the whatever. So they totally in the building in the second story, I guess, but also not the second. I don't know. It was kind of not completely clear. So they totally, absolutely, very realistically throw a torch into something that lands it inside of the barn. I'd say it was like a fireplace, but it was like large and round like a well. I didn't really understand what it was. And they throw it in there and it sets everything on fire. And the doctor's like running around and smacking at the door, and he's gonna die again. And then we cut to the crew turning around to see that the house is on fire. Susan does a scream, and then they're all led away again. And we see the dirty child peek through the grass, and he's absolutely not hidden at all. And then we cut back to the doctor, totally passed out on the ground, and he's dead again. And that was literally the first episode.
So, first episode, not looking too good for everyone.
No. Doctor's died like 3 times at this point.
I know, right? But, so, I really do love this episode. There's a lot of, like, behind-the-scenes stuff on this one. Like, for instance, I know you don't like this doctor that much. He was
hold on.
Not...
What makes you say that?
Well, the fact that you say it constantly. He was not exactly easy to work with either. And the director that they had for this episode was so inexperienced with working with television and like was not used to the cramped conditions of their tiny, shitty studio that he collapsed during the shooting of the 3rd episode. And, well, that as well as the fact that William Hartnell did not respect him at all. Because he was Hungarian, and William Hartnell wasn't exactly a fan of the non-English.
Yeah, noted. Lovely.
So, during the 3rd episode, they basically were like, shit, we need someone to replace... Someone needs to fucking direct this. They found someone, although no one remembers who it was, because it's been so long ago. Basically, they went, okay, we'll get someone else to finish just this episode. He was back by the next episode, thankfully. But they were like, Hartnell, you need to be more, like, less of a dick. Like, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Plus, also, this episode was the first instance of Doctor Who shooting on location. They actually went to Paris for some of these shots.
They got that budget.
In the next bit, I'll reveal which shots exactly. But yeah, what happens in the next episode?
I wonder. Sorry, those fucking shots, man. So this is our favorite title of, I think, this entire series.
I do love this title.
The Guests of Madame Guillotine.
Originally, it was originally going to be just the guests of the guillotine.
Oh, that's
but
so boring.
For some reason, someone decided that Madame Guillotine sounded better, and it does. So does.
It does. So they make it to Paris, and we get the most realistic drone shots of Paris. So realistic for their time. It's a photo. No, it's not. No, that one isn't even a photo. It was a drawing. It was a drawing that looked like a drone shot, and it was just so much to deal with. And then... oh my god. And then we see a picture of a guillotine, and it drops. The crowd cheers. And we see another drone photo. This one's actually like a drawing, like ground level, so it's kind of like looking up at a bridge, and it's like kind of a photo drawing moment in time sort of thing of France. And then we see the crew again, and they're being charged of being found with the two guys
Traitors?
with the two guys who were traitors, and that's what they're being charged with, specifically being in the company of wanted traitors, and that's about it. And they are to be guillotined because of it.
They got to visit Mrs. Guillotine.
They gotta kiss Mrs. Guillotine.
Let Madame Guillotine go to town on them.
Oh, we made so many guillotine jokes.
We made so many French jokes.
Yeah, we did.
We're terrible
Mostly
people.
like in the second to third episode we did, yeah. So they put Ian in a separate cell, and Barbara and Susan are put into another. And the jailer gets really close to Barbara, and she's like, I'm real lonely. You wanna come back to the back of the jail with me? And she's like, no, fuck that, and slaps him.
Be honest, were you kind of worried that it would go to like a mountain episode of Keys and Marinus again?
Yes.
Thankfully it doesn't. Thankfully, like, they let Barbara be like a somewhat strong woman and basically just slap him in the face.
Yeah, there's a good reason why I like Barbara, I think, out of all of the companions.
She is the one with the most conviction, I would say.
Yes. Ian has conviction, but he's kind of stupid.
He kind of goes with the flow and is more
Yeah.
like just there.
Mm-hmm. So Barbara slaps him, and Susan is scared because she doesn't have a man to protect her, and she's like, oh no, where is the doctor and where is Ian? There's no one to protect us. And so Susan asks Barbara to pick her up so they can look out the prison window, and all they see is a prison yard, and they're like, there's nothing there. How are we going to get out? And we cut back to the dirty kid having rescued the doctor from the fire, and
Woohoo!
having somehow, as like a little kid, carried, I think Gamb and I estimated 160 to 180 pounds, i.e. 70 to 90-ish kilogram old man on his own.
The French are fucking strong.
Uh-huh.
And he's a frail old man.
It's amazing. If you've ever tried to pick up, like, I don't want to say a dead body because that's
Have
not
you
what I
ever
mean.
tried to pick up an elderly man?
Have you ever tried to pick up a limp body? That is so hard.
Have you ever tried to pick up a limp body? First question, why?
Second question, where is it buried? So the kid's basically like, hey, please come meet my mom and eat her food. She'll feed you. And the doctor's like, no. And then we find out it's Jean-Pierre.
Jean-Pierre!
Jean-Pierre! And we see the doctor
You say that as if it's like meant to be some sort of like reference of like, it's him, it's Jean-Pierre.
No, I don't know. They just made like this whole thing about like, my name's Jean-Pierre. And there was like a musical like lift there. And I'm like, okay.
Well, there's musical lifts all over the fucking place.
Yeah, but it was just like, he was supposed to be important, but he was, I don't know. So then we see the doctor walking around. And walking around.
Mm-hmm.
And walking around through some grass. And
well, it's a long way to Paris.
And then we see Susan and Barbara faking being asleep to hide from the guard, but then they start talking right after, and you would easily be able to hear them, especially in a very echoey chamber. Anyway,
That never comes up.
Susan is being optimistic, and Barbara is like, what the fuck has gotten into you? Like, I don't... what's gotten into you? And then Barbara finds a damp patch on the wall and thinks that it might lead to the sewer. So she tells Susan to look out for the jailer, and then Susan instantly goes, shh, 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 because the jailer is walking by.
No, because she's having a seizure, duh.
Ian is taking care of a man that's apparently been shot in the side and bleeding out. And Ian's like, I could probably escape from here. Much like many men in the current age who have watched Ninja Warrior and been like, yeah, I could do that. Listen, my 68-year-old dad made that comment once, and I was just like, mm-hmm.
I mean, that is Ian's entire character.
It is!
He is that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Who'd be like, oh, I can do this. And then eat shit trying to do it.
He asks Ian to promise to find James Sterling, and he has information... Sterling. Sorry.
Remember I made the joke that I thought he said Jim Sterling?
Okay, so I thought it was just because it sounded like Sterling. Okay, Jim Sterling, and he has information about the future. Do you remember that information, Gamb?
Something about people need to wear masks. Beware.
Something about how Germany might fuck them up.
There's one day going to be a country called Germany.
How about how the superpower named McDonald's is going to have worldwide power? And then he dies the first time. And then he accidentally blinks, and so then his head just falls over. And I started choking on my own spit, wheezing, laughing about it. It was so
funny.
much. And we thought that it might be because he went to play dead, realized he blinked, and then went, shit, what do I do? It just falls over.
Yeah.
So the doctor's walking more and then sees some people working and decides to talk to them. And apparently they're all tax dodgers, and one person is presiding over them, forcing them to break down rocks or build a road. I wasn't really sure. And are constantly being told, you should finish whatever you're doing real quick because I have a pistol. And the doctor's like, you know what? I have some advice for you. And he's like, yeah, I'll take any advice you have. That's so nice of you. And the doctor's like, you should get the fuck to work too. It'll go faster. And he's like, excuse me? So at this point, he basically goes to the doctor and is like, have you paid your taxes? And the doctor doesn't say anything. So he's like, okay, well, I guess not. Here's a pickaxe. Get to work. I have a gun. It's like, okay. I guess that's just a thing.
Yep.
So Barbara's womanly hands are getting hurt from digging too much at the rocks. And so Susan and Barbara trade places. And as soon as Susan touches the rock, she's like, after digging one rock.
My hands, my supple hands.
Oh, my 60s womanly hands. They weren't made for this kind of labor.
I am but a young 15-year-old.
I am but a young, totally 15-year-old. Oh my god. I think I had more fun with this episode making fun of it than watching it. Although I think it was decent so far up to this point. The guard,
keep going.
The jailer brings them food and is like, hey, why do you have that blanket in the corner? And goes to grab it because it hid their hole. And then someone calls his name and he's like, oh shit, and just runs off. So some guy I later coined to name as Fancy Pants walks in on Ian and asks how long the other man has been dead. Ian doesn't respond. Ian is then put in a chokehold and asked again how many hours he's been dead. Several hours, apparently.
That's Le Maitre, or Le Maitre, or Le Maire, depending on which actor is saying his name.
Le Maire.
Because they say it about 7 different ways.
Yeah, so Fancy Pants. The Fancy Pants asked the jailer what they were talking about. And he's like, I didn't really hear it. It was kind of weird, but I knew they were talking. And so he takes the execution list from the jailer, gets the body removed from Ian's cell, and then gets Ian removed from the execution list, I believe.
Yes.
Barbara and Susan are finished eating their gooped and go to finish digging. And Susan freaks the fuck out because there's rats and they apparently smelled the food. And my first thought was, just give them the food. You didn't eat all of it. And
they are the rats that make all the rules.
And so she's freaked out. She's like, no, I don't want to go down there. There's rats. And they decide to stop digging and just wait it out until they're gonna...
stinky rats.
They're rats, and I don't want to down there. I don't want to get my wibbly hands dirty. You good?
Yeah, just, dying.
Mm-hmm. Fair. I mean, everybody is, but fair.
Fair, yeah.
So the doctor hurts his back and starts to talk to the other tax evaders, and then talks to some guy specifically next to him and says, follow my lead. And they talk to him, and then they're like, oh, look, it's the eclipse. You've heard about the eclipse, right? And the guard comes over and he's like, what? What do you mean the eclipse? And I don't know if there was actually supposed to be an eclipse or...
Eclipse?
What?
Did you just say the eclipse?
It's an eclipse.
No, don't worry, keep going.
All right, fine. Well, they pickpocket the guard for a gold coin, then proceed... 2 gold coins, sorry. Then proceed to throw it in the dirt, cover it with dirt, say, oh, look, we found hidden treasure. And then the guard freaks out. He's like, don't dig. It's mine. It's mine if I dig it up. You get out of here. And then the doctor just hits him in the head with the fucking shovel. And while we do this, we zoom in on a single guy squinting really hard while there's a ding noise in the background. Yeah, there's I wouldn't be surprised if there was a vibration noise, but there wasn't. God. He's just asleep, though. It's fine.
Yeah, he's just having a little bit of a nap.
But...
That was the sleepy shovel.
Yeah, the sleepy shovel. But the doctor puts the gold coins over his eyes, which is usually a sign of death and paying to cross the river Styx into hell. But he's just asleep. It's fine.
Well, you know the French. They love hell.
And then he keeps walking some more. And he's still walking. And then he sits down.
He does love walking.
He sits down on a sign, and apparently it's 5 kilometers to Paris, which is about 3 miles. We then come back to Susan, and the jailer calls out for them to be guillotined, and they're marched away. And Ian's just kind of looking out a window, and he's like, Barbara, Susan, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates,
dun, dun, dun.
They got everybody. And that was the end of the episode.
Yeah. So, you know those shots of the doctor walking?
Which ones? The ones where they were totally on a set?
No, the ones where he was totally in Paris. Because, he totally was. There are many shots of the doctor sort of walking away from the camera, sort of walking in actual environments, not sets. And, it's not William Hartnell. It's a body double.
Is it really?
Yes, it is. Uncredited, of course. Brian Proudfoot, his name is. Or was, probably. So, an interesting fact about this one. This is another episode where episodes of it are missing. But this one was deemed worthy enough, and there were so few episodes missing from it that it was reanimated, and we'll get to that. But all the prints for the episodes that were found were actually found in Cyprus, at a television station there in 1985. They originally had all 6 episodes, but their copy of the 4th and 5th episode were destroyed in a bombing strike during the Cypriot Civil War. So, blame Cyprus for not having all 6 episodes of the French Revolution. Yeah, like when I said that these episodes were sort of found all around the world, I meant it. Like, they're fucking all over the fucking place. These episodes were found because basically some stations had the master print still that they would have been sent. Some never got rid of it like they were meant to. So
some people recorded their TVs.
Yeah, some people recorded their TVs, which is where you get, in instances before this whole animation of episodes started, there was a group of people who came together under Loose Cannon Productions, who would essentially gather as much material as they could, like screenshots of people's TVs and audio and surviving footage wherever they could, and basically piece together those missing episodes, and they'd give it away for free for people who wanted it, because obviously they couldn't sell it. Fun fact, a very young me actually got in contact with them to get a VHS of The Wheel in Space, which is entirely missing. Or is it most episodes? I can't remember. And they do a pretty good job with their prints. Let me just say. But they eventually, when the BBC were like, okay, we're getting stuff together to animate some of these and put like telesnaps of some of them, they were basically like, do you have any resources that would be able to help us? And they were like, fucking yes, here's all the shit we've gathered on these episodes. Use it as much as you can. We want official releases of these
Please
things.
help us.
Yeah, like, the BBC have been really, really, especially with Doctor Who, they've been very, very good about fan interaction with this sort of thing. Like, I might get into it a little bit later on, near the end of the classic series, but in the 90s and late 80s, when Doctor Who was cancelled, there were a lot of fan videos and movies that actually starred some of the actors from Doctor Who, because some of them just loved doing it, and some of them, they were legitimately paid to do it. And the BBC were never, like... It never got big enough that they had to step in and be like, come on, legally, you guys can't do this.
Yeah.
But they never even... Because obviously they could immediately stamp it all out and go, stop doing this.
Yeah.
But instead, what they did was, like, fans who came together to do, like, audio plays and stuff that they wanted to do, that eventually grew to become Big Finish Productions, who now do, like, a massive industry of audio plays and dramas, chief of which are their Doctor Who ones, because it's fucking run by fans. Like, when I say Doctor Who is, like, made by the fans, like, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
like, people just kept building with this shit.
I mean, we mentioned before, like, when a series has been around for a certain period of time, eventually the fans start making that series. They start applying for those jobs. They become part of that series very quickly.
Anyway, next episode, we're back in the Frenchy Revolutionary.
A change of identity, part 3 of 6. The Doctor has now made it to Paris, and we see two people in outfits that are fancy looking around and confused why the people that they were meeting there hadn't really showed up, and I didn't really understand what they were meeting for, but it was fine. We'll get to that. We see Mr. Fancy Pants come back and walk over and talk to the jailer, and shoves the food away that he went to go give everybody. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, we need to figure out, like, what's going on. And we see Ian walk over to get his food and realize that the jailer, when he went to go lock the door, so that he could go talk to Mr. Fancy Pants. And of course, he was in a rush because you gotta talk to Mr. Fancy Pants instantly.
If Mr. Fancy Pants wants to talk to you, he wants to talk to you.
Yeah, you
now.
talk to Mr. Fancy Pants. That's why he shoved away all the food. And he finds out that I was like not really sure if the door was open or if that he just knew that there were keys in it, even though he wouldn't have known that the door's not see-through.
Well, he went to the door to figure out what was happening because he heard the door, like the guy chitter with the door, and he was like, "What happened here?" And then he looked down and saw the key.
He went to go get his food. I promise you, he went to go pick up his food, and the only thing I could think of was he could hear the keys jingling because the guy had ran away so fast.
Yeah.
And he sees the keys, reaches out, takes them, and he does a smart. And he takes specifically his key, sticks another key in the lock, and pretends like nothing has happened and pockets his key.
It took him a bit to find the hole, though.
It did. It really did. He did some practice, honestly. I don't think anyone ever taught him. Maybe the doctor could teach him.
Poor Ian. Oh.
So he almost drops the keys, by the way, as well. We were doing this whole thing. We're like, oh, he's going to drop those keys. And then he almost fucking drops the keys.
What do you mean we? You were the one, like, initially he grabbed the keys and you're like, oh, he's going to be dumb. He's not and then you're like, oh, no, he's doing it. And then he was putting them back and you were like, he's going to drop them. And then he nearly drops them. You're like, and then he didn't. It was like, whoa. You were fully hooked in this arc of Ian taking the key.
Listen, this was the royal we. We are in the French Revolution. This was the royal we.
If we're in the French Revolution, you do not want to be using the royal we.
I mean, what about the...
Do you not remember what happened to the royal family?
What about the royal wee?
God damn it, dear. Shut up.
I had to make the joke. So the jailer is going to be rewarded for everything that he's done, but oh no, he forgot his key. Everything's fine. He gets his keys back and everything's fine. We see Susan and Barbara being dragged off to kill, standing in a cart, and the horse apparently throws a shoe, so they decide to make a run for it. But also Susan is really sick. And her head is splitting, and her back is aching, and all this stuff. And I was just sort of
she's getting old. She's nearly 16.
Oh. With What Is Thursday, I will kill you for that. So...
What, are you turning 16 on Thursday?
I'm turning 30. Are you saying I'm a fucking elder?
No, I'm saying she is, because she's turning 16. I'm saying your age.
God damn it. So, I was kind of annoyed that Susan isn't willing to, like, run away. She's too sick, even though, like, dying is slightly worse than having a headache. And the people in capes we saw earlier come in and save them. They shoot all the guards. Yay!
What a rescue team.
Woo! And they do this like weird loop around the set to make it look like they went to another set, which was actually kind of cool to me. They sort of went in one door and then moved where the camera was so that when they went down the same hallway they came in, it looked like a different area. And I was just like, okay, that's kind of smart, honestly. That's a good way to save budget without having to do, like, a whole lot. We cut back to the doctor looking into a window of a clothing shop, and the shop's owners like Robespierre, oh boy, and they're like, have you seen the guillotining today? And he's like, oh no, I haven't. Have you? And he's like, no, I had to work all day. Darn being a shopkeeper when all the good guillotining is happening. Look, you can even see the prison from here. And he points out the prison. The doctor then pretends to be someone he doesn't. I didn't really hear what it was. We started talking and making jokes.
He pretends to be basically a regent of a far-off province.
Thank you. He says he has no money and will trade all of his clothes to the shopkeep, even his ring, which they kind of make a whole point of. And I sort of thought it was like special to him, but then they never bring it up.
It kind of is, but that's not in this episode.
Okay, we'll get to that. We
might not.
get him to trade the ring. Susan and Barbara are then taken into a house where some lady and a guy named John are holding them, and one of the other guys is named Jewel. Much like the things you hit the sick vape off of, like our many French ancestors.
This is a very modern show.
Very. They say that they're going to take them away so that they can get out of there, and they're like, no, what about Ian? And then we cut to Ian, who calls out to the jailer, and because he didn't get a response one time, he opens the door to leave. And then we find the jailer is drunk. And
drunky.
Ian is scooting around pillars because, of course, peripheral vision doesn't exist. And we see Fancy Pants come back in, and apparently he saw Ian leave, and it was his plan the entire time.
What do you mean it was his plan the entire time? Don't spoil this fucking episode.
No, he literally goes, okay, now I can follow you.
You're spoiling the episode. Like, we haven't even gone to the bit where he actually follows him.
Susan and Barbara are pointing at a map and being like, this is how we arrived, blah, blah, blah. We came in from here, and they're like, that's weird. But apparently they revealed that soldiers had discovered the escape route of the quote-unquote insurgency that Jewel and Jean and everyone are doing. And apparently there's now an informant somewhere in the crew, and they're like, wow, we should figure out who that is. And Susan keeps getting headaches and needs sleep. And at this point I went, you know what, I think she's sick, honestly, but, whatever. Hey.
She's got the plague.
She's got the plague. And
it opened up her eyes.
No, it closed her eyes very hard. Yeah. There's a knock at the door, and a man named Leon comes in to talk to them, and I believe he's stripy Fancy Pants, right?
Okay, yeah.
So he's the one in the very stripy Fancy Pants clothes, and they talk about how there's another man who's been asking for this other guy, and Barbara then comes in to meet him, and he does the hand smooch. And he obviously wants her to touch his baguette, and he wants to split her like a guillotine, and just all this stuff.
My lord.
The doctor has walked into the prison at this point with a feather hat. No, not just one feather, 3 feathers in his hat, a cape.
Oh, yeah.
The, ribbon that he's an emissary across his chest. And he's upset.
Very extra man.
He's upset that no one has taken care of him and so on because he's also a Fancy Pants now. And the jailer's like, why didn't you ask for someone? And he's like, I did. What are you talking about? No one has taken care of me. What the fuck? And they keep talking back and forth, and he explains that Ian escaped and attacked the jailer. And the second Fancy Pants, the first one, walks up behind them and is like, what the heck? Give me your papers. And the doctor is asked to come along to the execution and also to come meet Robespierre. And
then... meet Rob Schneider.
And then at this point, we cut back to Sexy Man with Barbara, and we realized he was wearing shorts. And I hated it.
Listen, his outfit looked great, except for the fact he was wearing shorts.
They were like in slightly above the knee capri shorts, and it was so bad.
Yeah.
Then they want to give Robespierre the doctor's ring because it's evidence against a traitor. So they offer to give it to the jailer, and he's like, oh, "Hold up, I'll get Fancy Pants to talk to you." And then I believe this is where the episode ended. Because I'm pretty sure because of the next thing I freaking wrote.
Because the whole shopkeeper coming in, speaking to Lemate.
So okay, then I may not have written that down. I guess they basically.
Okay, I'll fill it in then. The tailor from earlier, who the doctor got his clothes from, comes into the jail to be like, "Hey, I want to speak to someone in charge." And the mayor goes basically, "Hey, I'm in charge. Speak to me. Let's go speak in private." Because the tailor is like, "I have information on a traitor," and his hand goes out. The camera zooms in, and we see the doctor's ring in his hand. Episode finish.
Yeah, about the same.
So, at the end of that episode,
because shit gets wild after this episode.
Shit does get wild. So originally it was actually William Russell who played Ian. It was originally his suggested idea to have a single story set in the French Revolution. Which also, fun fact, he was on holiday during the filming of the second and third episode.
Oh.
Which is why he barely shows up in it.
Yeah, that makes more sense now.
Yeah, I know, right? Other than that, I mean, it wouldn't surprise you to tell you that an original working title for the story was just The French Revolution.
Who could have seen that?
It's called The Reign of Terror because it is more specifically about the Reign of Terror rather than the French Revolution itself, because they don't deal with the whole aristocracy being overthrown and gutted.
They deal with Robespierre.
Yeah, they deal more with Robespierre and his downfall and sort of the struggle between Robespierre's military dictatorship and sort of the people being like, "Hey, this isn't really what we fought for. Can we maybe go for what we fought for?
Maybe can we stop?
Maybe we can stop. Would be nice. But also the story originally was a replacement for a different 6-part story that one of the directors of Doctor Who was going to write that would have been set during the Spanish Armada instead. Honestly, I'm more glad they did this because the French Revolution, I believe they decided to do this one over the Spanish Armada because they were like, kids know the French Revolution. Like, it's not something they really need to explain what it is. Whereas, like, the Spanish Armada, they probably would have had to explain a little bit more to kids.
So I come from the land of stupid, right? So for me, I wasn't really explained a lot of the French Revolution. I was more explained World War I, World War II, and the American Revolution. So let me finish. So you kind of figured this out as we went, especially like with the last episode and everything that happened. And there was a lot of like, I didn't know these things. And it's just kind of like, I thought the French Revolution was literally just screwing with the aristocracy, and that was about it.
The French Revolution is such a lot. Well, it honestly is one of my favorite periods. I do really love it, and I really should get back into studying it because I haven't studied it in years since like high school. But it is such an all-encompassing, like, there are the specific sections of it, like the Reign of Terror is literally because Robespierre went fucking nuts, and became a paranoid dictator and ruled through fear.
Haha.
And some would say that the French Revolution lost its way, and I mean that's ultimately why Robespierre got the ultimate fate that he did, and why we got good old Napoleon coming swaggering on in after him a few years. But
spoilers for history, by the way.
Whereas, like, spoilers for history. But the episode, I guess for English school kids back in the 60s, they would have known more about the French Revolution than an American from the 90s would. I guess. I don't know how comprehensive the American education system is on the French Revolution. I know what the Australian one is, and it's pretty decent. But yeah, well, I don't want to say it's a great period of history because it's a rather bloody part of history.
It's an interesting.
But it's a very interesting part of history, and it's one that people still like honor and think about to this day. Anyway, throughout the first part of this episode, you were going, "This is getting very cartoony," and then I sort of went, "Hey, you think it's getting cartoony now?" And then episode 4 happened. What happened in episode 4, dear?
Hey, Gamb, refresh me real quick. What did they do to recreate the lost episodes?
They animated them, dear.
They animated them.
You want cartoons? I'll give you cartoons.
I freaked out for a little bit, like a good little bit.
You really did. And it's part of the reason why I saved, like, as soon as you said it, I wanted to say, well, a few of these episodes were actually animated, but I was like, you know what, maybe I should keep it and, like, wait till just before it's revealed, just to sort of refresh it in my mind.
I mean, I probably still would have freaked out, but it's a mix between rotoscoping and pulling and smudging on anchors to just have a single frame of a face to make it move. So, like, you're, like, moving the lips with, like, a smudge tool to make it look like it's talking, and rotoscoping. And it's really jarring at first. It gets better, but then there's parts where, like, things are not drawn well, and people in the background look like Satan, and it's just like, oh my god.
I mean,
everyone also looks really oily. It's my god.
No, it's just that they're not oily. They're just
they're really shiny.
They're drawing the accurate lighting that was in the studio because the lights were way too fucking bright always for all those episodes.
The Doctor looked like the old women in any Ghibli movie.
I mean, yeah. You got a problem with that?
They gave him anime eyelashes, and it was so much to take in at first.
To put it in perspective, I kind of made the joke that for the front-on profile shots of characters, it basically, they look like VTubers.
Yeah, they do.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they used a similar program to get that effect.
Honestly, maybe.
Considering this is back in 2013, though, probably not. But anyway, what happens in this episode,
like something
dear? Episode
to
4.
The effect of that.
Episode 4. Come on.
There's
episode
animation, and there's so much work to be done. And the Doctor is talking to Robespierre at this point, like, if you keep killing people, like, even more enemies will pop up. For every one you kill, like, 5 are gonna pop up. So maybe stop being crazy. And then Robespierre says some stuff, and he's fucking crazy and wants to kill everyone. And he's like, there were like 40 executions like today. Like, I'm doing so good.
I'm good killer me.
I'm doing so good killing all these traitors. And then we cut back to Susan, and she's being sleepy in a chair, and everyone's just kind of looking around. And I know that the animation was trying to mimic the cuts of the show, but they keep zooming back and forth between, like, two people's eyes and Barbara's eyes, and then when Barbara speaks, they zoom in on her mouth, and it's kind of jarring.
It is a bit at first.
And then everyone's kind of just looking around, and they bring Susan a glass of wine to make her feel better. And he apparently just makes her feel better. And I'm like, if she's dehydrated and sick, wine is not gonna fix that. But okay.
She's fine.
Mm-hmm. She was absolutely fine.
She's
many characters die in this episode. They are looking for someone that they can trust. And Jewel is not back yet. And so they're upset. And Barbara wishes Striped Fancy Pants well. And walks away to go sit with Susan. And there's like a fake, very quick sort of romance between them. They're like, I'll miss you. Be good while you're gone. I wish you well. Sort of thing. And it's just like, huh? And
my love.
Susan apparently wasn't actually sleeping. She was just dozing. And she pretty much goes, Barbara, you like Leon, don't you?
You like him.
Kiss, kiss,
you want to
kiss.
marry him. And then Susan knocks her out.
So they leave the room, and then there's suddenly 2 people at the window. And they sneak in a body, and then close up the room, close the curtains, and they pull the bag off of this person's head, and wow, it's Ian.
Ian?
Ian. The doctor and first and foremost Fancy Pants are talking, and Robespierre is still wanting to talk to the doctor, and he's like, I don't really want to go. And Fancy Pants is like, no, you should stay. And they put the doctor in one of the soldiers' rooms and tells Fancy Pants to meet. So this is where they were talking about the shopkeeper giving him the ring.
Yes. He was talking about it, yes.
Yeah, he was talking about it, but like this was actually where the shopkeeper gives him the ring.
Yes.
And the shopkeep is like, I'm suspicious of the doctor, and they also get upset that Fancy Pants wants to keep the clothing and the ring because he paid for those, and then Fancy Pants just gives him money and it's just like, get the fuck out of here. It's like, fuck off. And he sends him out another door so that no one could see him leave. Then Barbara comes into the room that Ian is and is like, wow, and hugs him. And then they're all confused as how Barbara and Ian know each other. And they're like, Ian said that, like, you were looking for a guy. That's why we went to find you. And it's like, that has nothing to do with why I'm here to find Barbara. Like, these are 2 separate things. You just happened to find me. Yep. And they're like, who are you looking for? And he tells him who they're looking for. And they're like, I don't know who that is. And one of the guy sort of just keeps glancing off into the distance. And I was like, he's suspicious. And then it never comes up again. Then they argue about how England is fighting with France. And then how actually England is fighting with France against France and all this stuff. And then John's like, I'll follow the trail of the doctor and try to find him for you so that you could all leave and everything will be okay. Ian is happy that a doctor is coming to see Susan, and Barbara comes in and they all have wine. Again, because they wouldn't be French without it.
Because this is France.
France. The doctor has decided to sneak out, but gets caught by Fancy Pants. And Fancy Pants, like, pretty much goes, hey, let's go to breakfast, and then let's go see Robespierre. And the doctor's like, I don't really want... Okay, I guess I'll go. Ian is now in fancy clothing instead of what he had. And there's a message from Leon that the physician won't come to see Susan. And
yes,
they should take Susan to him. And they state that Barbara should take Susan because Ian is suspicious. And Ian's like, I don't like it this way. And they're like, well, that sucks to suck. We should do it this way anyway. And they're like, okay. So we cut to...
Yeah, he's just like, I don't like it this way. And then Jewel just goes, well, fuck you. We're doing it this way. He's like, oh, okay.
They actually do. And it's amazing. The physician says that Susan has like a fever, chill, and they aren't really sure how she got it. And also she has like wounds on her hands. So like, that's weird. And the doctor's like, you know what would help you in this time of your need? A good bloodletting. And he leaves to go get leeches. Susan pretty much goes, I don't like him. Can we leave? And then they try to leave and he's locked them in. Leech. And then the doctor instantly turns them all in. And we cut back to Barbara and Susan gently pulling on the door and going, wow, this door is stronger than I would have thought it was. And the guards show up to the door and then take them both. And that's it. That's a whole bam, bam, bam. It just all happens right after the other.
Everything's happening. This is an episode where things happen.
Things have happened. Ian is then told where Leon is and is drawn up a map to go meet him. And Susan is taken to a cell and Barbara is to be questioned. She's then being questioned by the doctor. And instead of pretending to stay who they are in character and not get caught, they start going, Dr. Susan! Dr. Susan! Oh my gosh, I've missed you so much! Right by the open window of the door. Giving themselves away instantly.
To who, dear?
To Fancy Pants. Yeah.
Le Maire is standing behind the door listening in because he set this up. That's why the doctor was allowed to what's it called? Interrogate.
Yes. That is the word. So we then see Ian walk into the church and guess what, Gamb?
What?
It's a trap.
Da-da!
And then the episode cuts there.
Well, it's a trap set by who?
Oh, Stripey Fancy Pants. Leon.
Also known as Leon.
Yeah. Stripey Fancy Pants. And a whole bunch of guards with guns.
I mean, if the guards didn't have guns, I'd be concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the as you said, the animation for all these reanimated episodes aren't done by the same people. They're all done by different studios, which is weird to me.
It's also kind of obvious in some places.
No. I mean, like, so all the animation for this episode, the Reign of Terror, was done by one studio.
Okay.
But other episodes that have animated sequences are done by different studios.
I was gonna say, for me, like as an artist, you could kind of tell when it's like, this is one artist, and that's another, and that's another.
Well, it's not really like, this is one artist and this is another. It's more like, this is one style they're doing. Because it's like, you're right, it's like 3 different styles of animation they're doing. There's pure rotoscoping, where they've literally taken surviving footage and screen caps and just traced over it to get the footage. Then there's the profile shots with moving mouth animation. And then there's the kind of blend of the two, where they rotoscope an image of a pose, or either from the episode itself or from just any sort of production photo of the show, and do basic animation through that. It can be a bit jarring at first, which, yes. But again, you get
that's all
used
there
to
is.
it.
Yes.
Yes. So this is one of those purely historical Doctor Who episodes. I kind of miss them because they don't do them anymore. They don't do pure historicals anymore. They kind of stopped after the second Doctor. Now it's like, if we do something historical, there's aliens involved.
Well, okay.
Which, like, I understand, but also, like, I kind of would still like a purely historical episode every now and then.
Okay, let's bring up the big historical episode that every fucking artist knows in the world. Did that one have aliens? I don't think it did. They just went back and met him. Did it?
Yeah, it had the fucking invisible alien that only Van Gogh could see because he was enlightened.
Right. You're right.
But that's what I mean. Like, they now have these historical episodes, but they tack on aliens to it. And it's like, you don't really need to do that. Like, people aren't going to be bored if there's not an alien in it.
Yeah.
Just make the historical bit interesting, which they fucking did with Van Gogh, to be honest. Like, I still like that one. I mean, there's parts of it that I feel they glorify a little bit too much. But I just miss the pure historical. Like, but the biggest part about this one that I love is that it's the first time in a pure historical that the Doctor basically dresses up to wear period appropriate attire, which continues with upcoming episodes. A lot of them we won't get to see because unfortunately most of the historical ones got scrapped. But even the very last one where he does it, we don't get to see because it's completely missing. Which is a shame because that's him in the Highlands with the Scottish, and it's great, and that's when he meets Jamie.
Are there maybe screenshots of it?
There are screenshots. I mean, if you want, we could watch telesnaps instead of an animated, but I have a feeling you would be incredibly fucking bored by it.
Yes. No, what I was going to say is maybe we should make a master post of them, like on Patreon or something, since we're talking about this now.
I mean, maybe. I mean,
a small thing.
I'll send them to you. I just really love this episode specifically because it feels like William Hartnell is having fun acting like he's acting, essentially. Acting like a fancy pants, acting like he's bossing people around, even though he was like that in real life as well.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, we gotta keep going. Episode 5. Next one. Bigger, everyone's gonna die, the episode.
So, stripy outfit man that liked Barbara, Leon, puts Ian in handcuffs and asks for information. And then we also cut to the Doctor and Susan, because they're in the jail, and they're talking about how they were found, and they were literally revealing everything. And if Susan leaves her cell, the jailer will be guillotined. The guillotine. He tells... The Doctor tells Barbara to walk straight out the door, and the fancy pants left to go meet Robespierre. So the Doctor pretty much goes to the jailer and says that Barbara will tell them everything. And the jailer, he makes it seem like it's the jailer's idea. The jailer comes up with the idea of just letting her walk away so that they follow her. Big brain.
What a clever idea that the jailer came up with.
So clever. He's such a clever jailer.
Such a handsome, clever jailer.
So handsome and clever. The door opens and Barbara just walks out as she was told. And that one guy that saved them, Jewel, comes back to the house and doesn't find Ian. So he's really scared that Ian was caught or something. And then we cut back to Ian and he's arguing with the guards, and Fancy Pants comes up and he's like, my guys have really bad tempers. So you got like one chance.
You mean Stripy Fancy Pants?
Yes, Stripy Fancy Pants. Comes back and pretty much goes, you got like one chance to save yourself, and that's to tell me who you are, who sent you, and how'd you get here. And then he literally just tells them, we flew in the sky in a box through time.
Well, he was like, you're not going to believe me if I tell you the truth. He's like, I don't care, tell me the truth.
Yeah. And so he snaps his fingers to kill Ian. And then Jewel comes out of the corner with a pistol.
Like a fucking Rambo.
He
like
fucking shoots
French Revolution Rambo, like BAM! Bam!
And then he throws his pistol at him.
That is
And
so
it's a
great
whole
because
thing.
because you specifically, like a few episodes earlier, were like, these pistols, like, they're only designed for one shot. Like, why don't they just overwhelm them? Like, they can only use one shot, and then they're basically useless. And then in this episode, they're like, he shoots it once, he has someone else about to shoot him, so he throws his fucking gun at them.
Then picks up another gun and shoots the last guy. And the other big thing for me is I was like, you know, this being animated, I'm sad that I didn't see the real version of this.
That is the real sad thing. That a lot of these bits are missing. I'll see while you're just explaining the plot if I can find, because there is some surviving footage of the episode. I'll see if maybe that is one of them.
Yeah.
So keep telling us what happens.
So he tells Ian that Barbara and Susan have been captured, of course. And the doctor goes over to talk to Susan, and she's like, I don't recognize you. Oh, wait! You're my grandfather! And the jail walks around their conversation, and everyone goes, shh, it's okay. And the doctor comes up, and the jailer asks, why didn't you follow Barbara? I thought that was the plan. And he's like, excuse me, you thought I was going to follow Barbara? You said you were going to follow Barbara. And they literally just go back and forth going, wait, no, you said you would do that. No, you said you would do that. Why me? I'm fancy. Like, what the shit? Like, what? And there's this whole thing, and he's like, oh, well, shit, I fucked up now. And he's like, okay, well, what if we release Susan and then we actually follow her? And the jailer's like, no, if we let Susan out, I'm gonna be guillotined. Like, sorry. And
yeah, he's like, hang on, it didn't work the first time because we didn't communicate.
Second time.
But what if we do it a second time?
See, we're actually communicating now, so now it'll work.
But the jailer is too handsome and too smart to fall for it.
So handsome and smart. Anyway, Robespierre is back, and Fancy Pants has come to talk to him. And Robespierre talks about how traitors are indicting other members of something and taking sides, and they're going to stop Robespierre from talking. And then there was a really important Robespierre, and there was a really important date, and I don't know what it was, and I was really upset because I'm sleepy, and Gamb was making fun of me. And Fancy Pants leaves, and then he casually chats with the guards about something, and he goes, and then he leaves. And then Ian
basically, so what he says is, Robespierre basically goes, tomorrow, the 27th of July, 1794, which, if you know history, is essentially the day that Robespierre basically fell apart and got killed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's literally referred to as the fall of Robespierre.
Yeah. I mean, I assumed as much, but I sort of thought that it was something more than that, so I was just like, I don't... And you told me to stop Googling it, and I was upset.
Well, because I asked if you knew what it was, and then you were like, nope. And then I was like, don't you fucking dare Google it, because it'll spoil what happens in the episode, which it would've.
It was obvious that was going to happen. Anyway, Ian and Joel get back to the house. Apparently Barbara's there. She explains what the fuck is happening and asks what was up with Ian. And then she's upset that they killed Leon. And then they're like... they all get into a fight about Robespierre and the revolution and how things are good and bad and how it's not black and white and everything's fine. And she's upset that they murdered him. And then they're like, well, he was a traitor. He was going to kill Ian. And Ian's like, he was going to fucking kill me. So, like, I'm right to be upset. And Barbara's like, yeah, well, I wanted his baguette. So I'm also right to be upset. So, like, this isn't going anywhere.
We still have his baguette.
Anyway, the doctor and the jailer are now having a weird stare down, and the doctor suddenly says that Susan has escaped because he made her hide behind a door, and then he hits the jailer over a head with a jug. And the jailer falls. And suddenly the military show up with fancy pants, and he pretty much goes, "It's about time we had a talk, eh?" And he flubs his lines again.
I mean, when doesn't he, to be honest?
Honestly. The fancy pants shows the doctor his clothes and ring and says, "Excuse me, what is all this?" And he's like, "I don't fucking know." And they just go back and forth a lot, like, "Hey, I have your granddaughter, and we're talking and shit about catching up." And he asks the doctor to help him for the release of Susan, and he wants to turn over Jewel, but the doctor's like, "No." Then he's like, "This is not your choice," sort of thing. And then we got to Ian and Barbara talking about waiting around for the doctor and Susan to come back because they haven't, come back yet. And Barbara just makes the offhand comment of like, "I am so tired of death." And there's like a pause, and I'm like, all right.
It's like, okay.
Jewel is back, and he says that there's no sign of their friends whatsoever. And they're like, "You've been through this before." And he's like, "Actually, I'm not part of the aristocracy. I'm in the middle. I'm some class in the middle. But I don't like anarchy. Anarchy bad." And then the doctor
and
suddenly...
thus, neoliberal capitalism was born.
And then the doctor suddenly walks in with fancy pants next to him. Ta-da! End of episode.
You forget the specific words that Jewel says.
Hmm.
"Your friend has betrayed us."
Well, I mean, yeah, but like, I'm sorry that I don't think every single line matters.
I mean, it's a pretty good line.
He's betrayed us.
We have been betrayed. Please do not betray.
Please not betray.
So I mentioned earlier that the shots in Paris were actually on location, and it was a stunt double essentially for the Doctor. So in order to get like William Hartnell's movements down packed of like how he would walk as the Doctor, he essentially shadowed his movements for like for a while, I think an episode or two, just so he could get it down packed. And according to the actress who played Susan, William Hartnell fucking hated it. He could not stand it.
Good.
I mean, normally he does not like people getting in his way or being around him, but especially if it's like someone trying to specifically copy him, it's like, whoops, that's gonna piss him off.
I mean, at this point, what doesn't piss him off?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, anyway, next episode. The final episode. What happens?
Final episode. It's the prisoners of the concierge. It's a betrayal. They apparently, though, came alone and unarmed and as a friend, and everyone's like, "What?" And he reveals that he's actually Jim Sterling.
He was Jim Sterling all along?
He reviews video games for a living.
The British spy? Which,
yes.
Fun fact, they made because James Sterling sounds like James Bond. It's kind of a pun.
Really?
Because sterling is a currency and Bond is like a form of currency.
I don't care anymore. This pun sucks.
No. Because I need to give into context of why they did that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know when this episode was made?
No.
It was made in 1964. Do you know what else was made in 1964?
Was it James Bond?
It might be James Bond.
Which one?
All of them. No. It was Goldfinger. Goldfinger was being made at it was, I believe it wasn't finished. It was being made at the same time as this episode. So yeah, I'm keeping historical context here. This episode was made at the same time as Goldfinger.
Yeah.
Goldfinger.
Apparently he's been planning everything. Got Ian out of jail, got him the key. He's the spy. He didn't know if he could trust Ian or any of them, and Fancy Pants says that Susan was already out of prison and back, and so on and so forth, and all of the shocking information. And then Ian finally kind of relays the fucking message that this entire thing has kind of been about since second episode. And apparently they were friends, the guy that died and Jim Sterling.
Jim Sterling just wanted to give him a smooch, but he couldn't anymore.
And then he was also like mumble other things I can't remember, even though this is so fucking important. And he also needs to know something else, and Robespierre sent for him, and there's a plot to depose him. And they decide to plan a reception meeting for whatever the fuck at the place where they got the information from Mumbly Guy. Sorry, my brain just jumbled a minute ago.
You okay?
No. So we have another episode to do. I'm not okay.
It's okay.
We get information about an inn. That is what Ian remembers about it being in an inn and where they were going to meet someone about something. So they're like, okay, let's go just plan a reception meeting for whoever the fuck this is going to be. And Ian and the crew decide to go to the inn, and it says some stuff, but it's cut off by Jules saying, fuck off, we'll do it. Like, just whatever. Because Fancy Pants was like, let's plan all of these things. And Jules just like, stop fucking talking. Like, we've got this. Like, go away. So it's a 2-hour ride or something, and something about riding around a forest, but it's apparently storming. And the inn is now set with Jules smoking a pipe, Barbara being a maid, giving people wine.
You could have said that Jewel was smoking a vape.
You know what? I could have.
You
apparently, the innkeeper is being held in the wine cellar, bound and gagged. And we see that Ian is drilling a hole in the wall for some reason. And I thought it might be to put a gun through so that they could shoot someone, even though they can't change history. And I didn't really understand it, but it's whatever. And then the guy, one of the men that they're meeting up with, finally shows up around closing time. And Barbara's like, would you like anything? And he's like, wine. And there's only going to be 2 of us, so wine for 2 people. And she's like, okay. So the guest comes up on a horse. Jewel has left at this point, and he's entirely wrapped up. His face is wrapped up for stealth reasons. And Gamb at this point was like, who do you think it is? And I'm like, is it fucking Napoleon? And he just like, maybe. And I was like, okay. So they're not really sure who it is. They can't really figure it out. He walks into the room, and then he's like, are you ready to talk? And he's like, yeah, sure. And he takes off the mask, and I didn't really understand who it was. And
it's
I didn't
you.
really understand. It's you.
You. Oh my god, it's Soldier Boy.
It's Soldier Boy. He is a Soldier Boy. That is true. He walks back out to like look around the inn and make sure that no one's followed him. And Ian's like, holy fuck, Barbara. It's Napoleon Bonaparte.
Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte.
And then we made 2 very specific jokes about.
Did we?
Yes. Whoa. Notices your Napoleon boner? Oh, notices your Napoleon complex? Woo.
Woo.
Woo. Apparently Robespierre is to be arrested and executed, and they're going to shut him the fuck up. And Fancy Pants apparently is upset that Napoleon is going to take over power because he's crazy and wants everything. That doesn't sound like Napoleon. And Fancy
No, not at
Pants
all.
says that Robespierre is better than Napoleon, so we gotta, like, not let them fuck up his shit. So Ian goes with Fancy Pants, and everybody else will meet them outside of the prison so that they can leave. And Barbara's like, it's so funny that we're making all these plans to change history, even though no matter what, history will happen. And then we cut to Robespierre freaking out in his office, locking himself in with a pistol. They arrest him, and Fancy Pants and Ian show up while he's ranting, and then there's a gunshot. And then he comes out, and they shot his fucking jaw off, and I was not really prepared for that.
You weren't ready. You weren't ready, were you?
No, because I didn't know that that was a thing that happened, because American history class in school is very, very bad and very American centralized. So I did not know he got his jaw shot off. Forgive me for not knowing that.
It doesn't. Okay, here's the thing.
It doesn't show anything. It shows him with like fake blood in his hands, holding his jaw. That's all it is. But like the idea of it, like, because this is a history episode.
Yes, but it's not. It didn't exactly happen like that. Yeah. No one knows if like he actually did it himself, or if like it was a result of the skirmish that happened. Because again, it wasn't just like him by himself being arrested. It was like him and all of his allies.
Yeah,
like, I think there was like 50 or 60 of them.
Mm-hmm.
They were all arrested at the same time. Like this was a proper coup.
Yeah.
But yeah, he didn't die from that though. He did not die from that.
No, which, youch. Just in general, youch.
Fucking hurts.
Mm. We cut back to Barbara and the doctor, and they're trying to get Susan out, and they're like, "Oh, it's going to rain again," and why did I write? Okay, I'm sorry. I don't understand my notes sometimes. I see you haven't heard the nerve yet. The news, the nerve. What?
William Hartnell flubbed his line there.
Oh,
he said,
right.
I see you haven't heard the nerve at news yet.
The news, the nerve. Okay, yeah, that's what it was. Okay,
and him
that's
flubbing his lines appears
sense.
to have made you flub your brain.
I mean, that's not hard to do. The doctor comes in and talks about how he's part of the plan and is part of Robespierre's downfall to the jailer. And they're like, you fucked around with like Robespierre and like helped him do stuff. So arrest this man. And the doctor is such a fucking asshole. And they keep arguing back and forth really about like, I could get you killed. And he's like, I didn't do anything. He's like, yeah, but I can still get you killed. Like, that's the whole conversation. And I fucking hate this doctor.
Oh, come on. He's not that bad.
He's such an asshole. This whole episode is literally because he threw a hissy fit.
Not entirely. He just had an elderly person moment.
An elderly hissy fit, sorry. He gets all the prisoner released so that all of Robespierre's friends can also be captured and put in the jail cells.
Yeah.
And Barbara's off in the distance watching shit go down, and there's another bit of revolution happening over there, watching Robespierre being taken into prison, and everyone's like, yeah, woo, fuck you, woo.
The reign of terror is over.
The reign of terror is over, woo.
Soon we shall conquer all of Europe.
Jules is apparently coming with a carriage, and the doctor and Susan are to meet them. And we finally see Susan again after so long, and she sees Robespierre being brought in, and she's freaked out, of course, because, I mean, she's Susan. And they leave, and they have this sort of weird interaction about how everyone was in fear yesterday, but today, and then they just leave. Like, he doesn't finish the line, they just leave. He's like, that doesn't matter. You know, it's whatever. Bye. Barbara is then talking to Fancy Pants about where they're going to be left. And he's like, you're from Britain. I'm going back to Britain. Like, let's go together. Like, it's fine. She's like, no, leave me in the trees. It's fine. And then we get another perfect drone shot of a aerial view of a totally not drawn at all part of Paris, overlaid with pictures of one person in a horse-drawn carriage.
Mm-hmm.
Totally realistic.
I mean, it's exactly what happens.
And everyone gets back to the ship, and everyone's speculating about what could have happened if we changed the past. And, like, if we shot a gun at Napoleon, the bullet probably would have missed. And if we had told Napoleon things were going to happen, either he would have thought people were crazy, or the letter would have gone missing, or he just would have forgotten about it. Like, history always writes itself. Mm-hmm. And then there's stars, and they talk about how their history is to be in the stars. And it was kind of a weird ending until you reminded me that this was a season finale. And then the next episode is called The Planet of the Giants. And see.
Oh, yeah. Pretty scary, huh?
So scary.
So, Reign of Terror, what do you think?
Mm-hmm. I think I had more fun making fun of it.
Okay. Would you watch it again?
Not anytime soon. Like,
so
5 out of 10, maybe.
Okay. That's a little disappointing, but I understand why.
A lot of it has to deal with just it not... I'm really bothered by the fact that it had to have animation because episodes were lost. So
you said you liked the animation.
I did like the animation, but as a whole episode, I would have rather have not had it. Does that make sense?
You are not going to like The Power of the Daleks then, because that is 6 episodes that are all animated.
So, okay, no. My point is, if it's all animated, that's one thing. If it's all live action, that's another. But because there's episodes that are lost and 1 or 2 episodes are animated, it's kind of jarring to me. That's the issue I'm having.
I mean, it's jarring for like the first minute or so, but then you get used to it.
I mean, yes, but like it still doesn't make me want to watch it anytime soon.
I guess you're just picky.
Yes,
if you want to fix it, just go back in time and stop the BBC from fucking destroying the episodes, and we wouldn't have to be having this fucking conversation.
I can't because the bullet would miss.
What bullet? You're gonna fucking kill someone?
The BBC.
I didn't say go back in time and kill someone.
Kill the person that destroys the episodes. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yes, it's a single person. You go back in time and it's Ian.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who destroys them.
Because he just hated making that episode so much and didn't tell anybody.
Even though he was on fucking holiday for it.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay, so 5 out of 10. I would have expected maybe a 6 at least, but oh well.
It probably would have had more if it wasn't split between live action and animation. So that's probably going to be a deciding factor for later down the line.
God, I swear, if you mark down the 10th planet because one episode is animated, I'm going to kill you.
We'll see how jarring it is, and we'll get there when we get there.
Okay, whatever. Okay, anyway.
So does this mean that... Hold on, does this mean that this is our season finale for this season?
I mean, I guess, but we're not really, like, taking a break or anything.
We're literally about to go record another episode.
I mean, yeah, but it's not really like a... It's a season in that it helps break up everything a little easier.
Season finale. Oh, whoa.
Oh yeah, we needed the arc for this season was I needed to take a shit and I took a shit. There you go. Mm-hmm. That was the season arc.
So we'll need a better joke next season. Got it.
What do you want the fucking... We'll figure it out. Anyway, next week, Planet of Giants. Whatever could that mean?
Whatever could that mean?
We'll find out. It's gonna be interesting. Yeah.
General plugs of things that we don't talk about.
Oh, god damn it. Yes.
That's it. No, that's it. Just general plugs
Oh,
of things
so I
we
don't have
talked
to
about.
say it?
No, you don't.
Okay, good. I don't have to mention it. Okay. I'll see you next week then. Yeah.
See you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.